Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's get into a little chitty chat, a little chitty chat. All right, so in this video, I'm just going to be mainly talking about Carlos the King's interview that was posted today. I'll put the link below in the description bar or in the description box, where he did an interview with Mariah Huq. So let's talk about y'all. So the interview, I think, was a surprise drop. I don't think Carlos advertised this, because normally we get like a reel of like, or a trailer of what's about to like, what we can expect in the interview. And he normally releases it maybe a few days or a week before he drops the like first part of the interview. But with this one, I think he just dropped it today. Like we saw the one with Nene and Kenya, and even the most recent one with Mia's boyfriend, even though she married, on Real Housewives of Potomac. And so I was just kind of like, okay, this just came out the blue. And then it was on my FYP on YouTube. So I just decided, why not look at it and see what's up? Because you know I'm a Married to Medicine girl. So let me see. So it opens up and we're actually at this place called Sleek, which is Mariah's like co-work and media event space. So I'm going to read what the space all like, what you can get out of the space. And basically, before I read this, I'm getting ahead of myself. My bad. But basically, we see Carlos and Mariah. Carlos pulls up to Mariah's Sleek event space, and she pretty much gives us a tour. So in the description of what I'm about to say, it's pretty much what we saw in the tour. So it says, at Sleek, we cater to our members by offering an array of benefits. We set the stage and you bring the magic. It's that easy. Sleek is a one-stop shop. Our members can co-work, collaborate, network, host conferences, and much more in our modern workspace. The open area offers several different seating areas and a separate rolling working desk, used in both seating and standing positions. We also have a private state-of-the-art conference room, 2 private content rooms for those creatives who are more introspective and need silent energy. We have a fully equipped soundproof green screen film studio, perfect for filming music videos, corporate videos, or conducting interviews, creating social media content, and hosting podcasts. If you're up to it, filming an entire movie is not out of the question. Hollywood has an interactive movie experience in mind for the future, much like a video game. With our founder, Mariah Huq, always a step above the rest, you can be guaranteed an experience unlike any other. So pretty much in that about me, or that description, what we saw Mariah and Carlos go through the tour of the space is what we saw. We saw the green screen, which I was taken back by when Carlos was like, I never would have thought to do that, but that is a great idea. If you're saying that people can, because the way she has it set up, you have them the glam area, and then you can walk into the green screen room. That's smart. Like if you have people doing like media shows, like if you don't know, there's this gay black reality TV show called Chasing Atlanta. Like that is smart. Like I could see them going there to film green screens. Because there's a lot of new web reality shows that are popping up, and they do green screens, and that is smart to have that there. And then the 2 little podcasting areas or YouTube areas was smart as well, because it's all about an aesthetic. I know I have visions of what I want to be in my background. So to have that is really smart, because people like to look at what's behind you. It's just a cool idea. It more so reminded me of like a library, like a university library, with all the open area seating. Like for those who are still in school or who went to school, y'all know when you go into the campus library, you see there everyone's like, it's all this spread out space, but there's multiple desks, and you have people working on projects together with classmates, or they're like reading, or actually in study groups. So I think it's a smart idea, especially to have in Atlanta. Because when I tell you Atlanta's not a real place, Atlanta is not a real place, okay? But it is a place where a lot of creatives move to. And because, there's they have that huge Tyler Perry studio lot area, and a lot of reality shows and even movies are filmed in Atlanta. And it's like that's smart. That is a smart idea to have, because people will go there to have content, to give an aesthetic, to do, like, it makes sense, because to me, Atlanta is the land of smoke and mirrors and aesthetics. Like, people really cater to the aesthetics, and we see it all the time with all these pop-up restaurants and things of that nature. So I was just like, oh, that's a really cool idea. And I also think it shows the vision that Mariah really has, like that she is someone that is a creative, because I don't think anybody thinks of like, oh, let me do an event space or a co-working space. Like, you know, normally people do one or two things. They make a restaurant or they have like a boutique. And I think this is really, this is totally different to me. This is totally different. It's just like when people started to make like selfie studios, and I used to think that was like a weird thing to do, but then now I understand why, because people like to take crazy pictures for like their birthdays, special occasions, or just in general. And we have so many people that want to be influencers or who are content creators, that it's like, you was 3 steps ahead of all of us by creating that type of workspace. So I think this was definitely a smart idea on Mariah's part. The interview starts. We have them sitting in front of the Sleek moniker. I thought it was really nice. You know, it was a smart idea for her to have them do the interview at Sleek. You know, Carlos King probably has a large Atlanta following. I mean, I don't live in Atlanta, so like, or Georgia. So like, I wouldn't be interested in going to Sleek, but I can definitely tell that with them doing, like with her promoting it this way, she's probably going to have a uptake in like memberships, because she did say it was a member based working space. So I think it was definitely smart. So they sit down, and Carlos is giving Mariah her flowers. Now, she was being shady throughout this whole entire episode, interview, but it wasn't too bad. Like, she was giving him his you know, she was giving him the But it was a nice interview. You know, he gives her flowers. He talks about, like, you're a black woman, you're educated, you're an entrepreneur. Like, you created a sizzle reel, you got the cast together, and you shop this around to everybody. Like, most people don't do that. They then get on the topic of, like, the vanity title, because she says, you know, the only thing that I did not do for Married to Medicine was the name. Like, she had a different name, but Bravo came up with the Married to Medicine name. She said something about unmedical. I said, girl, I don't think no doctor was going to be on a show called Unmedical. That's not cute. Or Married Doctors Club or something like that. But she was like, I don't just have it's not a vanity title. Like, we see her name in the beginning of the show. I don't, because I don't be paying attention to that. But she also says in the ending credits, there's also like I guess she has like a creator credit. So she gets paid, like she still gets paid as the show is airing, which I was like, okay, girl, like you made it. So you definitely should still get paid for it. Like, I don't think she should not be paid for it. But she lets us know that TLC and Bravo were kind of like in a bidding war for the show when she was trying to bring it to, you know, us. She was like, at first it was going to be on TLC. And mind you, I'm a TLC girl, okay? I'm a TLC girl. I love the shows that they have on TLC, like 90 Day Fiancé, Smothered, My 600 Pound Life. What else? What else they got on? You know, 1,000 Pound Sisters. Like, I enjoy TLC's content, but I definitely feel like Married to Medicine would not have fit on TLC, and that Mariah made the best decision by going with Bravo, because like she said, there was already a demographic there that she felt like was the Married to Medicine brand, i.e. the housewife fandom. So definitely smart, because I feel like had this show been on TLC, it probably would have been canceled after like 2 or 3 seasons, because there's something with TLC where, like, I don't know what their matrix of like, I don't know what their metrics is, or their like rule of like picking whether a show should stay, because there's been shows on TLC where I'm like, oh, this was a pretty good show. We get like 2 or 3 seasons and then it goes away, and I'm like, well, what happened? So I definitely think Married to Medicine would not be what it is if it was on TLC. So I think having it on Bravo was definitely, like I said, smart on Mariah's part. Carlos then asks her about being pushed out of of the show. And she basically says like her contract was running out and basically production didn't want to continue with her. She says she feels like the ladies stabbed her in her back, in her front, her side. They stabbed her everywhere, you know. And she's not even that mad at production, but she's more mad at the ladies because she was like, in order to get her off the show, they were like the vessels to push her off the show. She said she felt personally attacked by, I guess, the ladies and production, but also more she felt discrimination from the production company. She didn't say specifically what was done, but she feels like it's more so that like she was a woman, she was a black woman, and she was the creator, and she felt like they were just trying to get rid of her. She also doesn't understand why the ladies pushed her out, because the moment she left, they began to like fight a lot, because she said one of the things that they had arguments about was like money, and she was like, she was rooting for everyone to get paid evenly. And then she said once she left, like that's when the pay discrepancies happen, where like Jackie is making more than Quad. And she also says she only wanted the show to have married minority black families. She was like, I did not want a show full of single people. Makes sense why she was harping so much on like Quad not being married to Medicine, because she wanted it to be married black couples or married couples that are like either interracial, because she's in an interracial relationship, but minority based, like that black couples, or like, you know, y'all get what I'm trying to say, couples to be on the show. They brought up Love and Hip Hop, and she was like, Love and Hip Hop is a part of the culture, that's them, but I just wanted something that was a black families, medical families that were well educated, that had relationships. That's what she wanted. Now, what I will say when it comes to this is I got a call. I don't believe Mariah totally. That's my thing. Mariah kept saying that she was really for the girls and she was really trying to keep them together, and I don't believe that totally. I think it's there a bit, but I don't think it's all the way she was presenting it to us in this part one of the interview, because there is supposed to be a part two next Tuesday where she was like, you know, I don't know why they got rid of me, because I told them don't let them get rid of me because they gonna get rid of y'all, and like I was trying to fight for all of us. I don't necessarily believe that, because as we continued the interview, she talked about wanting her respect, and I'm just like, you can't have it both ways. I think it's like, I feel like Mariah was the type of person to be like, I want us all to win, but I want to win more. That's the vibe I got from her, even in this interview and watching the show, because I've watched the show since season 1. So, but I do think it is quite, what's the word? It's quite like it's very cool, and it's something that should be admired and praised, is that like this was Mariah's idea. This is what she wanted for her show. This is how she wanted it to go. These are the people that she wanted, and she had this idea, and she says, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen, and she made it happen. Like, you can't take that away from her, that she created Married to Medicine, that she got these group of lit women together, that she shopped into the network, and that she stood her ground when she felt like she was being pushed out, and she still maintained some type of control, in the sense of like, we still see her name as being the creator and executive producer. So you got to give her credit for that. So we then get to the whole Married to Mariah comment, you know, that was featured in Quad's interview with Carlos, and I think the other ladies have brought it up too. Mariah ends up saying that comment, the ladies know, were only for production. It wasn't really for them. But then Mariah follows up and says, you know, sometimes I would say it and it would just, you know, it was a little bit for them. So it seems like the whole Married to Mariah comment was for both the ladies and production, when she felt like they were disrespecting her as the creator of Married to Medicine. And here's the thing. I think Mariah suffers from the Shawnee O'Neal effect. Mariah ends up saying how, like, you know, if I were to listen to production or listen to them where they just told me to like go with the flow, you know, trust the process, we got you, I would have been wiped from the history books, and no one would have known that, hey, I'm the one that created this. I'm the one that did this, this, and this. Like, they would have casted me out. They would have just pushed me to the left, and I would have been left with nothing. And I, to a certain extent, I definitely get where she's coming from. Like, it's just been reported for Salt Lake City that Salt Lake City legit was supposed to be centered around Mary Cosby. But then it got turned into Salt Lake City. Like they really came, like the production company actually came to Salt Lake City to film Mary in her life. Same with Potomac. Potomac was supposed to be about Jack and Jill families, or the life of being a Jack and Jill family. And Jack and Jill, the corporation told them, or the company, whatever you want to call it, organization, said, try us and we gonna sue. So then they turned it into Real Housewives of Potomac. That whole first season was about etiquette and the upper echelon and charities and all of this stuff, was because they were really filming for Jack and Jill type of vibe. And that's Jack and Jill said, don't try us, because we'll try you back. So I get what she's saying, but then I look at Mariah and I'm like, what did you expect? Like, let's be realistic here. You're telling the production company that they're married to Mariah, when it's like, sis, we would not know what Married to Medicine is had not Bravo picked it up, had not this production company picked it up and then brought it to us. So it should have been like, there should have been mutual respect on both ends. Like, we wouldn't have been able to see Married to Medicine or have Married to Medicine if this production company or if the network wouldn't have picked it up. And they also should have respected that they wouldn't have had this amazing show without this being Mariah's brainchild. And then when it comes to the ladies, saying that to them will also make them feel some type of way towards you, because it's like you're trying to act like you hold power over them. And nobody wants to be in a friendship that has those odd power dynamics. Like, let's be all the way 100. And I even put this in my notes where I said, I think the issue is, if you are going to be the talent, you have to act like talent, not as an executive producer. I understand her wanting to have her respect as the person that brought them all together. But once you play in the sandbox with the kids, sis, you're one of them. And that's the thing. I think Mariah wanted to be both, and it don't work like that. We saw how it happened with Shaunie O'Neal when she got into it with Brandy, and Brandy, I guess, went a step too far for Shaunie's liking. And next thing you know, we get thank you for your services, which I use that gif a lot. I use that gif a lot, but a lot of us felt like that wasn't fair, because it's like, the show is meant for you guys to have issues, resolve them, as well as us watching y'all go through your own personal lives. How's it fair for someone who's a boss to fire somebody because they don't like how the person is getting at them? Like I said, the power dynamics, it's not fair. And I think that's where Mariah has a disconnect for me, because do I think they should have pushed her out? No, because I enjoyed Mariah on the show. Was I on her side when it was Quad versus her? No, I was not. And I can proudly say that. I was not. But I still enjoyed her on the show. Married to Medicine is one of the few shows where I actually enjoyed everybody, and still to this day, to a certain extent. Like, I really do like this ensemble cast. The same way I feel about Miami. I don't want them to get rid of anyone on these shows, because I enjoyed them as a collective together. So I understand that, but I just feel like things, she wasn't all the way. I just think Mariah wasn't all the way. The way she is trying to portray herself in this as to be some, like, the ultimate victim doesn't work for me, because it's just like, I do think they did her wrong voting her off the island, but I also feel like you did things for them to be like, okay, let's vote her off the island. You know what I mean? So she says that one of the girls told her that production wanted to put the nail in her coffin. And we find out later on in the interview that was actually Simone, who said, I don't think I can do it, but they want me to be the nail in your coffin. Then she said another one said, I went to pre-production and asked, if I speak to Mariah, will I be fired? So it does seem like production was like trying to keep in charge of the girls. But I will say, I was watching Rodney the Voice's not his interviews, but his reviews for Married to Medicine, and he has always said that Simone is the one that's in charge of the girls. We think Quad and Mariah was in charge of the girls, but it was really Simone. And I kind of think in this interview, to his credit, he was right, because the fact that Simone was like, production wants me to put the nail in your coffin, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it, sis, I don't know. But heads up, because they gunning for you, sis. So it seems like production really rocks with Simone. So in that case, she might really be in charge of the girls. She then says that she doesn't understand why, like, no one can really tell her why they really wanted her off the show. You know, they bring up when she called Simone like Easter bunny teeth, when she was like the only person she got into a physical fight with was, what's her name, was Toya. She was like, I ain't really done too much to anybody for them to want to vote me off the island like that or kick me off the boat. And she says that the show has started to become where they isolate a girl and kick her off. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think the only two people that we have, well, three people, no. The only two people that has happened to, in my opinion, is Quad and Mariah. They brought up Buffy, but I was like, production didn't bring back Buffy. Like, a couple of the ladies were on her side where they were just kind of like, yeah, Jackie was wrong, but I think Buffy wouldn't let it go. And I think had she played her cards right and just accepted it and just been like, and not saying, and I'm saying like play her cards right in the sense if she wanted to stay on the show with just being like, okay, it happened, let's move on, then she probably would still be on the show. But she wouldn't let it go. And it was her right not to let it go because it was something that was very personal to her. But we do know, like, you go against Jackie, you got to be prepared for everybody to kind of come up against you. But I think those three are the only two, because she brings up Janine, who I wish would have stayed, because I liked her. She was sharp. She was like, I think married to she was a wife, but like they had like 6 kids and it was like a blended family. I would have loved to get her backstory about how it is blending your family and stuff like that. Excuse me. Anila and Contessa. Anila got kicked off by production. Contessa chose not to come back. So I feel like the only people you talking about was on the island is really just you and Quad. So she then starts talking about how she feels like Quad should have had a spinoff because she's no longer married to medicine, and she thinks that Quad still being on this show kind of dims her light because she can tell that Quad doesn't really... She don't mesh with the ladies anymore. Like, she could tell, like, had she not begun to check to hang out with them, she wouldn't be around them. So she just feels like she's not married to medicine. And the way she would have ran the show is after Quad and Gregory got a divorce, she would have allowed them to be on the show, I guess, for the next season to see how they move on with their lives. And then after that, probably would have gave Quad a show. Carlos asks, like, did Quad marry Gregory for the show? And Mariah's like, I don't know. All I know is when we met, she was dating my first cousin. Other than that, I don't know. Because there's been a rumor for a long time that Quad married Gregory just to be on the show because Mariah or the show or the network would not allow her to be on the show, or it wouldn't make sense for her to be on the show if she wasn't married to medicine. Like, she would have just been a friend. The conversation continues, and Carlos asks Mariah, who on the cast do you think has star qualities? She says everybody, but she says, to be honest, like, they work better as an ensemble crew. Like, no one's gonna watch them without each other. And I have to agree with that. She then starts talking about Married to Medicine spinoffs, where she said there should have been more more spinoffs in different cities. And we did have Married to Medicine spinoffs. We had Married to Medicine LA. I don't know why they canceled that one. We only got 2 seasons and then it was gone. We had that beautiful bald-headed what's her name? She was like I was about to say physicist, but no, she was a psychologist. Then we had I think the lady's name was like Britain or something like that. She was Contessa's friend. That they were friends in the military. We had that Blasian doctor who was Black and Asian, and I thought it was really interesting to get her view of how things were, especially when she grew up being Black and Asian, and her husband who was Asian, she just had a baby. And then we had the other the two doctors' wives. Like, it didn't make sense why they got rid of it, but we only got 2 seasons, and I wish it would come back because I actually liked that cast. I thought it was a pretty good cast to like keep going. And then they had Married to Medicine Houston. That one was more on like, so LA gave a black feel, like kind of like Atlanta. Houston gave multicultural church feel, like with a white pastor. And I was cool with it. I really was, because like I was interested. Like, I think we had this one girl who was married to another doctor, and they were both just out of like residency or something, and they were having a hard time getting their schedules on track because they wanted to be together, but she was working hours, he was working hours. I think the main beef on that season was that one of the girls, who I think she was Indian, either she was Indian, I think she was Indian, or she was Hispanic. I'm not. I have pictures of what these people look in my mind, but I can't remember. But they were trying to say that she really wasn't a doctor because she was one that dealt with like hearing and stuff. It was something, but I thought the show was pretty decent. That like they could have given it another season, but they didn't. Like I don't get it. Like we have so many spinoffs of Below Deck that I'm just like, why couldn't we get any new spinoffs of Married to Medicine? Because I would definitely be interested in more spinoffs of Married to Medicine. Like, I like this. I like learning about the aspect of like what doctors do and getting like a little medical lesson in with my drama. Like, I enjoy that. So I definitely would want spinoffs of Married to Medicine. Carlos asked, what's her name? Mariah, do you miss Quad? And she said, no, I don't miss her. She said, I used to, but no, I don't miss her. It kind of on the same lines of what Quad said in her interview, where she was like, I miss the fun we used to have, but she never specifically said, I miss her. I think Quad misses Mariah, but Mariah don't miss Quad because Mariah feels like Quad stabbed her in the back hard. Okay. She said, because then Carlos is like, well, when I interviewed her, she said she thought you and her were going to be like Thelma and Louise and ride off into the sunset. And Mariah cut him off real quick and was like, no, I thought that she didn't. Like, she did not think we were a duo. She allowed production to get in her ear and tell her that, like, you need to stop letting her, like, y'all are not a duo. You're the best one out of this group. Stop letting her play in your face. Stop letting her son you. And she was like, Quad turned into a diva. And that's not even what I was given. And I said, okay. And so then they brought up the STK fight. And I remember when this was going down on YouTube, because I remember everybody was like, what's going on with Mariah and Quad? And I remember watching the Funky Dineva video where they said how it started off, because Quad even said this in her interview. If you don't remember Rico Chappelle was like, the girls used to always get their outfits done. I remember his cameos on Atlanta, Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I remember his cameos on Married to Medicine. But he was a designer. He was always making their outfits for like the reunions and even when they would go out. And what they said started was that Rico wanted to do like a fashion of like a photo shoot of like his fashions, and he reached out to Mariah. Mariah said she couldn't do it, so then he asked Quad. They said that made Mariah angry and it made her jealous, because it was like, why would you do that when I can't do it? She felt it, they said it made her feel some type of way. So then there was a fight that happened at STK, and I think Funky Dineva was there, where he said Mariah was angry. They said she was might have been tipsy or drunk, and her and Quad got into it, and maybe they said she hit Quad with her purse. Or she hit Quad with her purse, and then they got into it, and Quad was like, Mariah, it's me, it's Quad, why are you doing this to me? And then they said they picked Mariah up, put her in like a Uber, or drove her back home to her house to like, stop the situation from happening. And we did hear a little bit about it during that season, because this happened on off season, but Mariah is saying that is not how it went down. Mariah said Quad called her up and said, hey, come to STK so we can like hang out and meet up. But when she got there, Quad had like 20 people there at the restaurant, and Mariah said she had put her purse on the table, and Quad threw her purse, and then Mariah tried to get at her, and she said because there were so many people there, they were holding her back, that she never touched Quad. Now, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, because one, I don't see Quad just picking up a purse and just throwing somebody's purse. We've never seen her do nothing like that. So I don't think she would do that. I also don't see Mariah just outright hitting Quad with her purse for no reason. Even though we saw Mariah and Toya, get the, fighting. But Mariah in some ways was justified to have an issue with Toya because Toya told everybody that her first child wasn't her husband's and the little girl didn't know that. So like I understood Mariah's frustrations, but Mariah just didn't pop Toya. I think either because Mariah kept touching Toya's hair and Toya said stop touching me, and then they got to nah, bitch, with the fighting. So I don't know. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle because like I said, I don't see Quad just throwing that lady purse, but I also don't see Mariah just hitting Quad in the face with her purse in a room full of people. She don't really give me that. She don't. She says she doesn't think that the ladies really push Quad off the show. She thinks that it's a script that they're running right now, that they want to have the fans love and hate the girls, but also like keep eyes on the show. And she thinks that the girls really just wanted to humble her and like, put her in her place and let her know like, girl, you could be gone. But she was like, she really don't think Quad got voted off the island. She also doesn't believe that this is like Quad's karma. Well, she says she also doesn't think this is Quad's karma. She just is like, it is what it is because it was done to me. And she was like, it wasn't even done to the level, like what they're doing to Quad is not on the level that was done to me. So maybe it's her, like, all of their karma. I forgot how she referenced it. I skipped over that. She said the karma is them stabbing each other in the back. I was just like, okay, I didn't get it because I'm like, did they really stab each other in the back if they're all still on the show together? The only person that got it was Quad. But if you don't believe that Quad is off the show, then really did she get her karma? And granted, what Mariah says makes sense to me because I don't get how before we knew Quad was going to get the bootaloo, she was doing IG lives with the ladies. She was doing IG lives with Heavenly, with Phaedra, with Jackie, with Simone, and all of them. Like, that you can't pre-record a live. So you were doing all those lives with them to now, because the fans are mad, you're caping and being like, yeah, I'm mad too, because you didn't seem mad before you got booted off the show. Plus, I found out that Quad only got asked back for a selected number of episodes. So she was going to be gone anyway. So this was their way of making it make sense to us why she's not a part of the show anymore. They could have did it in a different way, but I definitely think that what Mariah is saying is true, that they probably are going to ask her back because she's in the opening credits and we see her in the massive trailer, the season finale, well, not season finale trailer, but in the massive mid-season trailer, she was in the episode talking to Gregory. They were at some event, so I definitely think she coming back to make amends with the girls. So then next season is probably going to be Quad trying to foster better relationships with the women if they're open to it. Mariah says she believes that the work environment that the ladies are working in is hostile, that production has curated an environment where they're allowed to ice people out and not film with people if they don't want to. But I don't think Married to Medicine does that. Like when you compare Married to Medicine to, like, let's say Potomac, where we clearly see that there's people that are like committed to not filming with certain people. I don't think we've ever had that on Married to Medicine. I think in the earlier seasons, yes, when Mariah was still on, but once she left, I feel like everybody was filming together. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like this cast really does the whole, like, I don't like her, so I'm not going to film with her. I always feel like they're open to, like, allowing people to film with them. You know what I mean? Even if they don't vibe with them like that. She says she's happy that the show, because Carlos asked her about, like, how does she feel about the show being on, and she's like, she's happy that the show has lived for 10 seasons, but it doesn't meet her expectations to where she believes the show should be as of now. And I wish Carlos would have been like, well, explain, like, what do you see? Because I'm wondering what are her expectations as to what does she see for the show? Like, Is her mind like, okay, we should have more spinoffs, or is it like we need to take these ladies out and add new blood in? Because she did talk about, like, it's an evolution, like certain people ain't gonna always be there and you can't be afraid to kick people off, which is true. But I think you have to walk a fine line when it comes to reality TV of introducing new people to an already solidified cast and fan base. Like, The way I think a good transition was, is it season 16 or 15? Of OC, of Real Housewives of OC, where they got rid of Vicky, they got rid of Tamra, and all we had was Walmart Gina, Emily, and Shannon. And so then they introduced to us Noella, Dr. Jen, and then we got Heather Dubrow back, who hadn't been on the show for many seasons because she left. And I think that was an easy transition for the OC fans, because I enjoy OC. But I know for me, I was going to watch it either way, who was going to be on it. But I think it was easier for people to be okay with Vicky and Tamra being gone, because they brought Heather Dubrow back and they still had Shannon and we still had Emily and Gina. So bringing in two new people was like, okay, this is okay. Like, what's another show? Atlanta's not doing a good job of it, but in the sense of Atlanta as well, like, you still have Candy and Kenya, and then you brought on Sheree. You brought Sheree back. You brought Marlo. You brought Drew. You brought Sanya. It's like, you got to ease people into this, because if you do a revamp like they did for Real Housewives of New York, you're going to be met with a lot of pushback, because there was a lot of people who were like, I don't like the show, I don't like these ladies, I don't like that. They didn't see it for it. I watched it and I reviewed it, and you should check it out. But I wanted to give them a chance, because I'm just like, we had 16 seasons of those other ladies, and they did their thing, but the network wants to go in a different place because they want to appeal to younger demographics, i.e. my people and younger. So it's just kind of like, they're trying to hit the 20s to like early, like, the 20 to 35 or 36 category. Like, that's the demographic they're trying to hit, because most of the ladies on the new season of New York are around those ages, except for Jenna Lyons. So it's a fine line. So I'm just like, I wish Carlos would have asked her to like elaborate on what expectations did the show not meet. Because I think a show being on for 10 years and having like a solid fan base that supports them, that actually goes and like when they do have pop-up shops, when they do different things, is like a massive feat in my mind. They then bring up him doing interviews with, like, doing the recaps with Heavenly, and she said, I thought we was getting raindrops and we was in muddy water, girl, which was funny. I ain't gonna lie. That's one thing I do miss about Mariah, is she had really good quips and really good little sayings. And she did pose a good question to Carlos, where she was like, how can you give an unbiased perspective when you're doing this show with one of the messiest persons on the show? And I was like, you clock it. Clock it, girl, because that is true. How can you give an unbiased opinion when the person that you're doing the show with is one of the messiest people? So they're still on the topic about Heavenly and Carlos doing their reviews together. And pretty much, Mariah poses a good question, where she, like I said, she pretty much says, how you doing this show with the messiest person? But she also says, Heavenly is the type of person that will read every comment under her videos to get a pulse of like how the fans feel about certain cast members, and then react to them based off of the comments. And I can see that. I can see Heavenly reading all of the comments, and I can see her reacting to people in such a way because she's emboldened by the comments. I don't know if she's like doing it for the fans in the sense of like, oh, well, they're mad at this person, so I'm gonna go with them. I think Heavenly feels this way, and the fact that other people feel this way makes her feel more justified in how she reacts to people, in my mind. But I can see what Mariah is saying could also possibly be true as well. Carlos then talks about how, he wants more eyes on Married to Medicine. And Mariah poses a good question, stating, how can you rally behind this show that marginalized me? And I think Carlos's response was like even better, where he was like, well, I look at it as the institution. You still getting paid, you still have a credit, and you want to keep your legacy alive. And I didn't even care more so about the legacy part, but I'm like, can you really be that mad at them if you still getting paid and you still have a credit? Like, yes, you can have your feelings about feeling shafted and being pushed to the side, but you still getting paid, sis. and your names are still in the credits. It would totally be different if they wiped Mariah off this show, took away her credits, and didn't pay her. I would say, girl, you are fully justified in your anger and hatred you have for this show. But it's like, you can still feel how you feel, but you still getting paid. You still are getting your pesos. So I liked his response, because it's like, are you really like, I can still support it because you still getting paid. You still get a film credit. And she accepted that. She said, okay, I see your point. Thank you for being honest. Carlos proceeds to give her flowers again about how she put this show together, how she did all of this stuff. Then you can tell that Carlos feels some type of way about Jackie and Simone. Mainly Jackie and Simone, because he says he feels like he's not being acknowledged by those two women, because Mariah, Heavenly, Quad, and Toya recognize what Carlos has done in the sense of bringing more eyes and more viewership to Married to Medicine. But then I also go back to being like, Married to Medicine already had like a solid fan base. Like, the ratings have been consistent for a while now, and like, some people watch it, some people don't, but the fandom itself watches Married to Medicine. So I was like, did you really bring more eyes to it? And possibly he probably did, because he does have a large fan base. But it was just interesting to see him so like irritated by it. And it also makes sense why he was so perturbed by the blogger comment. But to me, that is what Carlos King is. He's a producer. He's a creator. He's a blogger. He's an interviewer. Like, you do all these things that a blogger does. You do these interviews. You speak about these shows. You do that. And the only reason why you're mad is because you think that is a title that is beneath you, and you feel as though they're not acknowledging that you're the king of reality. But in their minds, it's like, okay, bro, you blog. And they don't have to give you your acknowledgement if they don't want to, or if they don't see value in it. Like, you can be mad if they don't feel that way, but you can't harbor that type of feelings towards them. I just think that doesn't make sense to me, because that is what you do. Mariah feels like the girls like pretty much took her dreams away. She said Simone told her like, girl, I'm happy to be like, happy you're seeing your dream. But she was like, she feels like they took it away from her. I think it's more so with the whole the drug allegations her last season, and how she just feels like that tarnished the way she viewed her legacy, because she was like, I would have never did none of them like that. And she was like, it was the fact that nobody on that stage really was like, okay, y'all, we don't like Mariah, but we can't be putting this information out there. And she was just like, it really hurt her. Like, it genuinely hurt her that nobody was standing up for her with the drug allegations. And I can understand that. And you can still see a visceral reaction out of her when Carlos brings it up. Like, she gets visibly like uncomfortable. And I was just like, yeah, that would hurt too, especially if you were like, yo, like, I mean, I know we not cool, but we that not cool for y'all to let her say I'm out here doing cocaine, the white powder, the Miley Cyrus. Like, pause, y'all. And I think she was really bothered. She says that she felt really betrayed by Simone, because Simone was the one that birthed her sister's babies, birthed her babies, done all these things for her. And she was just like, and you couldn't really have my back like that. So she just kind of just feels some type of way. They then talk about the reunion. So Mariah, I guess, used to create an aesthetic for her reunion. She would bring in a whole new crew of people around her, especially with her glam squad. But she would also bring in her own crafts, to the point where the ladies would go get food from her table, because, they're there for like 12 hours. And she would set the scene and the vibe for herself, because she's like, when you go into the reunion, you going to war. So you got to always have your mindset ready. So she was like, she's felt totally violated when Heavenly posted her, wrote on her poster, like, she was like, don't touch my stuff. Like, don't touch my, and she said, now, if I would have went and did something, like went to her dressing room and cut up her dress, then it is what it is, because you marking on my stuff. Like, if you want to take it to hell, I can take it to hell with you. Like, just don't touch my stuff. And she said, Honestly, Heavenly did that with the door closed, because had she did it with the door was open, people probably would have laid hands on her, because everybody that was with me was appalled. Even I guess they brought up some white guy that was with her. I do remember someone being there, but she said he even went out there and was like, that was disgusting. She need to be off this. She had her crew with her rallying behind her. So she said she know for a fact Heavenly drew on her poster when nobody was there. But I said, Mariah, that also lends to the narrative that you also thought you were better than these women, because why did you need a poster that big? Why did it need to be on your door? Do I agree with what Heavenly did? No, because it was definitely childish. There was no need for you to draw on that lady's poster. We get it. You don't like her. You don't see it for her. She wasn't the tea. She wasn't your tea. She wasn't it. But it was just kind of like, why was it there? You were feeding the narrative that you thought you were better than them, that you thought you was the queen bee, that you thought you was the alpha. And then when they let you know you wasn't, you didn't know how to take it. Because to have something like a poster and have something that big, that gives like your ego was too big and it was out of control. I don't get when people have those huge posters of themselves in their house. I get family photos and even photos of yourself, but when them things be the size of like a wall, I'll be like, that's a lot. That is a lot. That's a lot. So they talked about they don't like the whole mob mentality on reality TV. And Carlos's examples weren't good. He brings up Monica and I'm like, yeah, Carlos, no, whatever you say about Monica is never going to hit for a lot of us. Because you're not trying to acknowledge what she was doing outside of the show and how detrimental that was. So I don't like his critiques when it comes to Salt Lake City. Potomac is hit or miss for me, but I do think he was correct on them trying to ice Candace out. And then the episode ends, or this part one ends, when I think Carlos says, there's been rumors or speculation that Jackie is like the real villain of the show. And Mariah says she is the real villain of the show. And he goes, and then it cuts off. So honestly, I thought it was a pretty decent interview. Like I said in the intro, some things I definitely believed that what Mariah was saying. Other things I was like, you trying to be a history revisionist, because it was like, you was definitely giving off the energy that you were that girl and you should not have been touched and you should have been Regina George. And the girls were definitely saying, girl, you a Gretchen and it's not it. But I can see why she's hurt. The drug allegations, this being her brainchild and her bringing it to fruition and actually cultivating this group of people, and then production not really seeing it for her and them being the ones that help get her off the show. Her feelings could definitely be hurt and she could definitely feel some type of way. But like I said, I think Mariah suffers from Shawnee O'Neal syndrome, where, girl, if you are going to be the creator and the executive producer, you should have just been the creator and the executive producer. Oh, she also did clear up the comments about Quad being homeless. She said Quad wasn't homeless. She just said when me and my sister met her, her mailing address was her license plate. Quad never lived with me. We were friends, but they had boundaries. So I said, okay. So she said Heavenly was out here telling a Miami lie. And I giggled. But let me get back to my thought about Shawnee O'Neal. I think that's where the disconnect from Mariah was for, I think, everybody, including me, where it's like, you're the creator and you want a certain amount of power and control. You should have stayed in that position. You should have not gotten into the sandbox or in the water with the girls and tried to play with them and think that you could still throw your weight around. That's when it's not even and it's not fair. And production was definitely not going to give you that much power as a talent. But that's just my thoughts. I am looking forward to part 2 because I wonder what they're going to say about Jackie and how she's the real villain. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic. Hop down in them comments below. Give me your thoughts. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. And subscribe if you like the video. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.